Go ahead.
You see? You make don't tell us. Okay, so I just want to say you're most welcome, Zanzibar, in our beautiful island. And in Zanzibar, it is a combination of two islands, Unguja and Pemba. But we are in a Unguja. And Unguja is big island than Pemba. Pemba is a little bit far. You take like 6 hours by boat from here to another island. And inside of Zanzibar also we have a small 56 island, the thing which is to make also Zanzibar. In front of Stone Town, we have only 4 small islands. In this side, there's a grave island. When we be on the rooftop, we can see those small islands. This side, there's a grave island. And why we call it grave island? Because during 19th century, when the British people was here Zanzibar, so the people from British, when they were died, so some people of them, we decided to bury there. That's why we call it grave island. In the middle over there, there's a small island, which we call Snake. It is because the shape of island to look like a snake. That's why the local people they decide to call Snake Island. In this area there's a prison island. So the prison island it's made by Arabs after after abolition of slave trade, because the British they came Zanzibar here during 19th century and they came to abolition of slave trade. So after abolition of slave, because they forced Arab to stop the slave trade, so the Arab they decided to continue to do illegal slave trade. That's why they moved from Stone Town to Prison Island, because it was a little bit far. And they made a prison, but we never use a prison because end of 19th century in Stone Town we got yellow fever. So they changed to become a quarantine for those people who struggle by yellow fever in Stone Town. And last one, it is that side we call Bowie Island. Bowie is just a name of island, but it is a good place for the snorkeling around on the Bowie Island. Very good for the snorkeling because we have a lot of coral, but not much fish because lots of fishermen every day they go there to take a fish. That's why we don't have much fish, and also it is not a conservation area.
Okay.
And Zanzibar it's made by colonized from 15th century up to 19th century. But before colonized came Zanzibar, they were first people came Zanzibar and original people. They were from border of Cameroon. They were Bantu people. So the Bantu people they came here Zanzibar earlier. And when they arrived here, nobody was here Zanzibar, it was open island. So they decided to stay in Stone Town and they went to the ocean to find the fish. So later on when the population of Bantu people started to grow up, they decided to move from here to Tanzania, mainland, Rwanda, Burundi, Kenya. Those people came from Bantu people.
Wow.
And we are originally from Bantu people
wow.
too. But 15th century, when the Portuguese came here Zanzibar, they decided to move the Bantu people from Stone Town to New Town, and they take over the Stone Town. They started to make the old fort. But before Portuguese arrived here, the first person who came from Portugal was what's his name? Sorry, he was Vasco da Gama.
Okay.
Do you know Vasco da Gama?
Nope. Go ahead.
Okay. Vasco da Gama, he was an explorer, and he's originally from Portugal, and he came in Zanzibar. And the main point of Vasco da Gama to being here, it was to find a place where they can make a business. And the business, it was ivory, spice, and the slave trade. So when he arrived Zanzibar for the first time, he saw Zanzibar as a good island because it was very close to the ocean. And the other reason, it was the land of Zanzibar is good because when you plant everything to grow up, that's why he chose Zanzibar. That's why I say Zanzibar. It's become famous because of the Indian Ocean. So Indian Ocean to make those people easy to come Zanzibar, because at the time they were using the traditionally boat to come Zanzibar.
Okay.
Yeah. And he went back into his country. He told the Queen of Portugal that Zanzibar is a good area. And the Queen of Portugal, she decided to send her people beginning of the 15th century in Zanzibar. So when they arrived here for the first time, they take over this area because it was close to the ocean, and they decided to make the old fort over there. Do you know fort?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this old fort, it was the first building in Stone Town. It's made by Portuguese from 15th century.
Wow.
And the Portuguese, they controlled here up to from 15th century up to 17th century. But end of 17th century, the Portuguese, they started to control the local people who are living here in Zanzibar. So they started to force them to pay the tax from the government. But the local people, they didn't agree that because we remember that before Portuguese arrived here Zanzibar, the Arabs, they passed by here before. So when the Arab came here for the first time, they changed all people who here Zanzibar to become a Muslim. So the local people who were living Zanzibar at that time when the Portuguese came here, they were under or for Arabs protect. So the Arab, they were protect the local people who were staying Zanzibar. So when they started to control them, the local people, they decided to follow Arab. They were in Kenya, Mombasa. They asked help from them. That's why Arab came here and they take over Portuguese and they took Zanzibar up to 19th century. So during 17th century up to 19th century, the slave trade here in Zanzibar, it became very high because of the Arabs. Arabs decided to grow the spice here in Zanzibar. So they decided to grow as a spice. So also spice, the one things which is to make a slave trade to become high, because most of people who came to Zanzibar at the time, they came to find the spice and the slaves, because spices was very important for them. They were using spice for the medicine, cooking, and the good smell inside. At that time, we didn't have a medicine from the hospital, so they should use a spice as a medicine. Yeah, that's why most people came to Zanzibar at the time to find the spice. So after get spice, they should take slaves to help them to carry stuff to Europe. That's why the slave trade in Zanzibar in during century it became very, very high in Zanzibar.
Okay.
Yeah, and end of 19th century, in the middle of 17th century, the Dr. David Livingstone, he came in Africa, so he came to find the source of River Nile. You know the River Nile? Yeah, because also he was an explorer too, the Livingstone. So when he passed by Africa,
what was his name again?
Dr. David Livingstone. He's very famous in Europe, also in Africa.
Yeah.
So because he is the one who helped the slaves from England, because when he came to Africa for the first time, he saw that we still had a slave trade in Africa, but in Europe they already stopped the slave trade because they started it from 1820s. And the main points of abolition of the slave trade, it was not because the missionary, when they came here, they say that they want to help slaves because Arab, they treat slaves, the people as the slaves, so they want to help us. But the main point was not to help the local people or to help the people, it was about the business. Because during 19th century, when the slave trade here in Zanzibar, it was very high, and the British, they know that the business here in Zanzibar is very high because of the slaves. They decided to find another way to make another business, like Industrial Revolution. So after get Industrial Revolution, they decided to come in Africa to stop the slave trade, because so nobody can come in Africa to find the slaves. So all people on the world, we decided to go in England to find a machine to help us. It was all about the business. It was not to help people. But when they came here, they came as they want to help us to bring us the Christian, and they help some of us slaves. They decided to use the money to buy them. So end of 19th century, they decided to force Arab to abolish of slave trade in Zanzibar. So after abolition of slave trade here, they continued to be in Zanzibar until 1964 when we got our revolution. So after revolution, they decided to go back home. How Zanzibar it was.
Thank you.